Hello, and welcome to our July Inspired Talk. Continuing our Making the Difference strand of talks, exploring making as a tool of social change, today we'll be talking about human and community-centered design. So we'll be hearing from collaborative designer and all-around sustainability hero Lisa Cole about her locally focused project Show Some Love, which is designed to tackle waste on Stapleton Road by inspiring local pride. And we'll also hear from conceptual artist and lifelong Bristolian Claudia Collins about her latest lockdown projects, Norwest Beaches and Kindness Rocks, which aimed at bringing creativity and community spirit to her local streets in a time of uncertainty and isolation. So I'm Fee, I'm one of the technicians at KWMC The Factory, part of Norwest Media Centre, and we offer commercial services such as laser and CNC cutting, product design and prototyping, plus a variety of training and skills development opportunities. And we also have a membership program for those looking to access the equipment themselves and become part of our vibrant community of creatives and makers. So now to hand over to our guests. Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm losing my voice. I'm Lisa Cole. I'm a teenage boy whose voice is breaking, obviously. I'm Lisa Cole. I'm a collaborative designer, and I've worked with Norwest Media Centre on a couple of projects. One of them is the one we're going to talk about later, and the other one was a dementia engagement box with the museum. And I love Norwest Media. I think they're fantastic, so I'm looking forward to talking to them today.
Brilliant, thank you. And Claudia, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Claudia and I'm a local artist living in Norwest. And yeah, I've done the Beaches project. I've been going around the city dressed as a bunch of grapes and a few other things over lockdown. So excited to be talking to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us both today. So should we start with you, Lisa? Do you want to tell us a bit about your Show Some Love project?
Sure. Okay, I'll try and hold my voice for the whole of this session. I need to share my screen, so just bear with me. Not that one, that one. Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag. Right, so I don't know if you know Stapleton Road, but it's not lovely. It's apparently the country's most dangerous road, but it is a very long road, so I think that's nonsense. But we do have a litter problem. This is the kind of thing that greets me at the end of my street almost every day. It's not fun. It's not lovely to live with. Nobody likes it. It brings us all down and it makes us all very unhappy. So let me see if I can move this screen forward. Here we go. We have a local magazine called Up Our Street. I know that you've got one in Norwest, and I think there's one in Bedminster as well. And Up Our Street called me in a couple of years ago and said, could you design a flyer to tell people that they will be fined if they drop their litter? And I kind of said, no, I don't want to do that. Because if someone told me that I was going to be fined for being naughty, I'd just say, well, I don't care, bring it on. It wouldn't help. It wouldn't make a difference. So I started to look at ways that would make a difference. I talked to everybody. I used empathy. I teach design thinking. That's one of the things I do. And a big part of design thinking is empathy. So I talked to everybody who was involved. I talked to the street cleaners. I talked to the shop owners. I talked to people on the street. I even talked to people who were littering because very neutrally, I just wanted to find out what was going on and why people felt that it was okay to stick a sofa at the end of every street. The problem was that no one cared. They thought, well, no one cares about the area. It's run down. It's neglected. It always looks like this. I can put my coffee cup there. It doesn't matter. So what I decided to do was to try and make the space feel cared for. And I had a little think about what could make a difference. It's quite grey around here. It's dull, it's grey, it's dirty. So I knew that some colour would bring it up a bit. There's a very diverse community, and I felt like no one was celebrating that. I wanted people to know that the money that was spent fixing and moving all the litter could have possibly been used somewhere else. I wanted to get people to feel a sense of ownership of the problem. I wanted to involve everybody. And I thought at the end, well, what makes me feel happy? And bunches of flowers make me feel happy. So I designed this thing here, which was a little A4 poster that Up Our Street printed out. And I went round to people's houses and people's shops, and I talked to them and I said, this is for you for keeping your shop tidy or for keeping your garden tidy. It's a thank you award for keeping the place looking nicer. People loved it. It's such an easy thing to do. People absolutely loved it. On the back of it was some stuff. This was really for shops. So if this was in a window at the back of the shop, it had all this information about how you could get rid of your bigger items if you needed to. This was an article in Up Our Street, and we had Khalik, who went round to talk to all the shop owners and hand out awards, and they loved them and they put them up and they're very proud to have them. The very best feedback I had from this was a woman on Facebook who said she just got her award and she was feeling really isolated and really lonely, and she had a Tidy Garden award, and it made her feel like she was part of the community and she was loved and she was needed and that she was making a difference. So this one little action of actually giving people flowers in the form of a little certificate really made a difference. So there was also a flyer that went with it. This was a prototype flyer, and it opened up to show the dirty streets. And it gave people this idea that we could possibly use that money for fixing potholes, which we all moan about, or for safer streets and better lighting. And when you open the flyer up, on the inside, it showed all the nice bits of Easton where people had been making an effort. And it gave you a few things that you could do: put it in a bin, recycle it, take it to the tip, report it, stuff like that. Then we thought we could take it a bit further. So I started working with Knoll West Media Centre, the factory, and Fiona helped me work out these big stencils that could go onto the street. So we printed out all those flowers that were in that graphic as massive great stencils and started stenciling the street, which was amazing. It made such a difference. It had its issues in that the stencils were difficult to use on a windy day. People were either walking over them or trying to help, and people were generally not very helpful. But I had this is the Real Habisha, which sells lovely food, and a guy from the shop helped me to do it on that day, and it made such a difference. It instantly brightened stuff up. It was brilliant. And that was it. So what worked? Talking to people worked, rewarding good behaviour worked, and celebrating positives helped. We could have done with more volunteers. We could have done with more time to do it. And this was RAP funding, and they do not refund projects. So although this was a really good prototype, we weren't able to fund it again. So it was a good start, and I'm pleased with it. And I still see these little posters up and around the place saying that they've got tidy gardens. So that makes me happy. So let me get out of here. So I'm hoping that you could see all that, because all I could see was my screen. Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
Good.
So how was it kind of received by residents? Did you get lots of feedback?
Yeah, it was great. I think when I started to knock on doors, people were saying, oh, this isn't enough. And they thought I was from the council. And when it became apparent that I was, my face is known, I've lived here 20 years. I think that made a big difference as well, because if I was just, we're an ethnic minority in Easton. So if I was just middle-class white woman coming in and saying, oh, you need to do this, that would not have worked. But they knew me. They knew me from the school run. They knew me from the shop and the post office. So it was well received. And when people realised that when I gave out all the posters, that was a volunteering element of the work. I dropped my rate to half so that I had the time to be able to make the project into something that worked better than the original brief. But when they realised that I was a volunteer, door knocking, saying, thank you for not having a sofa in your garden, people loved it. They were really, really appreciative. I just wish that there were more people who could have gone and done that, because it would have been a bigger impact.
Mm. So would there be a hope for you with the project that perhaps it could be revisited again at another time with more funding, more people?
What I would love to do, I think it's a great prototype, and I think it's a model for something that could work everywhere. But it wouldn't work with me going in and doing it. What you would need to do is train up the local community to go and sort it out themselves. Ideally, I would have had the children in local schools design the flowers, because in my experience of community artwork, if you get children involved in an area of social deprivation, whatever they do is totally protected. We've done artworks and murals and stuff with kids in a place called Barn Barton down in Plymouth about a decade ago, and it was the only piece of artwork that was never graffitied, because the kids had done it and it was protected by their brothers and their cousins and their extended families. So I think that's the key, is you get the kids involved. But of course, with this little time scale, and it was just over summer, and all the kids had their summer schemes planned already, so we couldn't do that. So yeah, but I see it as a really good model. The posters, there's plenty of that going on already. There's stuff down in Bedminster about there's nice garden awards, but what was different around here was that it was involving the shops, and it was involving the community, and it was making people feel like they were being rewarded for something that was never noticed. So that's what worked.
That's brilliant. It really shows the sort of importance of connecting with the people that are in something, and that human-centered design approach that you.
And not saying, oh, you're going to naughty person, you're going to get a fine, because a lot of our houses, they're on 6-month lets. And what's the incentive? Are you going to fine me? Fine who? Because I'm going to be gone. It doesn't work saying you're going to find someone, but saying to someone, you've done a really good job, here's some flowers. It's amazing. It's really powerful.
Yeah. Give you some sort of ownership over that area and feel like people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we'll come back to a little bit more about the sort of human-centered approach in a bit. But firstly, Claudia, would you like to tell us a bit more about this Knoll West Beaches project?
Perfect. I'm going to share my screen as well. Okay, so I moved into the area a couple of years ago, and I moved onto Minehead Road, and I was super excited that it was named after a beach. So the first thing I did was I visited Minehead and bought lots of tacky souvenirs. And this is the first one that I set up. So I put a little sandcastle, and I had a few things from a charity shop, like a little money box, and I left them at the end of Minehead Road. Underneath each of the signs, and a lot of them lasted for quite a while. So during lockdown, it became even more exciting and even more important, I think, to do this project. So I attended a Knoll West Media Centre meetup group, and I talked about my ideas. And I got talking to Michaela, who runs the Philwood Fantastic at the community centre, and we spoke after, and she helped me to apply for some funding. So with that funding, I went round to lots of the streets, and I chalked Knoll West Beaches and built sandcastles. I took a wheelbarrow that I borrowed from my neighbour. I had a lot of communication online as well. So I started a Instagram page and a Facebook page, and people in the local area would suggest other roads and roads that I might have missed. So I went round doing that. It was great to have the wheelbarrow and to be wandering around doing it too, because I had lots of conversations with people. There's one on Padstow Road. Each of the sandcastles had a little flag in which said more information about the project, and that you can go on social media to keep tracking it. And here's some images of people with the postcards. So I left postcards in a little orange and white stripy bag with a Knoll West Beaches pen in various local shops around the area. So people could pick them up when they were going to get their daily essentials. And there was also a little slip of paper talking about the Sandcastle Trail. People in Bristol are partial, I think, to a trail. We love the Grommet Trails and the Gorilla Trails. So it was nice to be able to do something like that in the local area. A lot of different organisations around Knoll West got involved with sending postcards. So Youth Moves sent postcards to a lot of their young people. A lot of children were sending them to friends at school that they hadn't been in contact with. I took some up to Connaught Road School, and some I just gave to people in the street. I would pop on the wall, and at one or 2 points I set myself up outside of Newquay Road at the sign there, and I took windbreakers and beach balls and things, and the sandcastles were built there, and that's where I gave out a few signs. as well as that, people responded about the Irish street names, and Norwest Media Centre actually did something on the building. If you look at the side, there's the road names, and if you look in the little hole, you can actually see images in Ireland. So one lady emailed me to say that a friend grew up in Norwest, she now lives in Australia, how about the Irish roads? So I went and did this and sent her a photo. So it was really about connecting with people and saying yes to all the suggestions that were coming to me. And then sort of bringing it back out to the street. And then this is a project that's gone on recently and is still going on, the Filwood Fantastic Mini Golf Club. So I use the sandcastles as a way of connecting. Like for me, I've been collaborating a lot with people at the moment, and this was with Meg Clark Bagnall, who's been doing the project through the Media Centre and Filwood Fantastic. So it was a good way to connect the two projects. When you go on holiday, you often play mini golf. So that was... And it was a way of people just wandering down the street and seeing what was going on in the area. You didn't need to go somewhere specific. You were just wandering down your own street. So a continuation of the project, I got some funding from the Norwest Alliance, and that was to create some bespoke Norwest sticks of rock. And this project's called Do Something Sweet for Someone in Your Street. And you could pick up rock from various places and gift to your neighbour or to a friend down your street. And alongside this, to make it interactive and as a little activity for people to do over the summer, is to create the rocks that people have been doing for the last couple of years, painting and hiding, to do them around Norwest and to drop off at a mural I've painted that says Norwest Kindness Rocks. So on the back of this little label, there were some other ideas of how to do something sweet for someone down your street. Things like if you notice they forgot to put their bin out, maybe you could pop their bin out. If you're having a party, maybe let them know. If you're going to the shop, nip in and say, do you need anything? And the focus on it as well was that at the moment we're all in isolation, and it's a time that we need people more, and a lot of us are thinking about holidays, places that we could go, but is appreciating what's on our doorstep and having this sort of same interaction. So writing a postcard or giving someone a stick of rock, but from actually where we live rather than going somewhere else. And then this is the mural that's going to go up along Filwood Broadway, where people would be able to leave the rocks that they've painted and take them and pass them somewhere else. So I'll stop sharing that now. There.
Yeah, brilliant. That's such a lovely project. And yeah, I really love the way that it's finding a way to sort of connect with, I suppose, your new local area, but also helping people connect with each other in such a sort of isolating time. And it seems like it was really well received. Were people quite happy, and did they chat to you a lot about what they thought of the project?
It was the first time I initially sat at the end of Newquay Road was the Bristol Post were coming to take some photos, and I'd got the date wrong, so I was just waiting for them, but they weren't coming. But it was actually really lovely because so many people were walking past and telling me about all the ones that they spotted, which then developed the project into more of the idea that actually it's really lovely to have people out on the street, and it's the safest place to socially distance and feel like you're being part of something.
Mm-hmm. And especially bringing something like that, like you mentioned, that Bristol likes its sort of creative trails, and you have like the arts trails as well as the grommets and stuff. I think it's great bringing something to an area that perhaps feels a bit left out of those kind of things as well. Did people have any comments on that, as it is something they don't usually see in Norwest?
Yeah, definitely. And I think my boyfriend grew up in the area, and he's sort of said that so much has changed, but there were certain roads when he was younger that he would have thought twice about walking down, which he wouldn't now. And it was really nice to be able to go along all of those streets and, I don't know, just have genuine interactions with people and have the conversation about how things are better, and that there is a bad reputation sometimes attached with Norwest, but it's not true.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, having worked there for a few years now, I just know how much of a sort of strong community feel there actually is there, and it's nice to find ways like this for people to celebrate that connection and community. So thank you very much for telling us about that. Just before I move on to a bit more conversation. You mentioned Project Night, didn't you, Claudia, was how you kind of got the idea out there initially. How did you find Project Night?
I'd signed up to 2 project nights in the past, and then timing wise, coming home from work, I wasn't able to go. And because it was on Zoom, it just made it, in some ways, it's more nerve wracking because everyone can see you, but it made sure that I got there. It was really interesting and really a good way of connecting with so many different people in the local area, and it's kind of taken a lid off my like little creative tin of beans, and yeah, I'm bouncing around everywhere now. So yeah, it was a catalyst for all the work that I've been doing at the moment.
Great. So if anyone else out there, any makers, creatives, or anyone just sort of interested to hear what other people are doing, want to join the next Media Centre Project Night, that's on Thursday the 6th of August at 6:30 p.m. You can find it on our website, and there'll be a link at the end to visit if you want to sign up. Yeah, and it's just a place to sort of take various project ideas and just chat with other sort of like-minded creatives and individuals. Great. So thank you both for telling us about those projects. I'd love to delve a bit deeper into sort of the community and human-centered aspects a bit. It's really nice to see how you've both kind of embedded creativity and positivity into situations and issues that might otherwise be perceived as overwhelmingly negative. So the sort of litter, or the sort of isolation throughout lockdown. Maybe start with you, Lisa. What do you think makes the sort of human-centered approach to design of projects like this so crucial, so important?
So when we did, I did a street walk with Khalil, who was he was working for Up Our Street, and he was part of the litter project. And I found out that Bristol Waste had never actually visited the street. They were just making decisions about us without actually, no one had even driven down it. So he was really keen to actually take someone from Bristol Waste and get them to walk down the street. So I think that's the key, isn't it? How does it work if someone who's never even seen something can make a decision about how the waste is collected, how the bins work, how the problems are solved? You can't do it. So talking to people is absolutely key to solving any problems, and it's a strategy I use in all my design projects. Is who are the stakeholders, who are the key people involved, how does this affect them, and trying to maintain a non-judgmental research methodology, I guess. So you're asking people about what they're using and why they're using it, or how they're behaving and why they're behaving, without kind of saying, oh, well, you're just accepting what they're giving you, and then you can try and work out solutions that people will accept and embrace, instead of going, oh, well, I don't like that, someone made that decision for me.
Great. And yeah, Claudia, how about you? Is it an approach that you tend to embed into kind of any project that you do? Thinking about the sort of local area and community?
I think in my practice in general, I like to get feedback of what people think of something and expand on it. So the idea is actually grown from everyone's input. It was interesting that about Bristol Waste, because they didn't know about the sandcastle project, so they were coming along and sweeping up some of the sandcastles. And I had a message from a neighbour to say, just to let you know, your castles are being swept up. And I contacted them, and they said, oh, no, that's fine. And then as I was out on the street another couple of days, I saw Bristol Waste, so I was able to give them postcards and things. And I think because with COVID, everything has slowed down a lot, you are able to see people in the street, whereas before everyone had a mission, everyone was going somewhere quite quickly. But where things have slowed down, we've really been able to make the connections.
That's so true. Yeah, it's interesting sort of highlighting how perhaps disconnected some of the sort of citywide companies and organizations operating perhaps are from the different communities that exist. And yeah, that's an interesting point that you make about how COVID sort of affected how you're able to interact with people, because I was going to ask about that as a sort of challenge, because obviously with the human-centered design approach, a lot of it is about reaching people, talking to people. And like Lisa, for instance, you mentioned speaking to people who you did actually see littering and stuff. Do you think is there challenges now that have arisen with COVID and with the lockdown that make those sort of elements of this approach a bit more tricky, or is there kind of other ways around that? What would your thoughts be?
I think there's other ways around it. This was 2 years ago, and I tried to get. I think my hashtag was Stapes Love, but it was pretty much ignored. And I think because of COVID, we're more onto the social media. And I know, Claudia, you're really good with social media and hashtags and getting people to see things. I think just in the time of lockdown, that's what people are using as a communication method. So it would be different, but it wouldn't be impossible. I still say hi to the road sweepers. You know, we're on first name basis because we've talked, and you know, it's nice to say hello to them. So from a safe distance, I can still say hi, how is it going? And we can still do that. But you couldn't get, if I was wanting to talk to someone who's littering, me shouting across the road at them is not going to go down well. So there's got to be different, you know, we've just got to adapt. And I think, I don't know, I'm going to bounce the question over to Claudia and say, how have you got people to interact with you on social media?
I think certain check-ins I find really helpful. So when I tag it to a location and then you can kind of click it, I really like doing that, and you can see all the photos taken in that area. And I think I'm a liker because I'm very visual, so I do like pictures, and I think it's creating relationships through the technology at first, and then you see each other for real. I don't know, it's Instagram is a massive thing, but it's made me realize also how small the world is at the same time.
Yeah, and I see you've used Instagram quite a lot for the sort of Norwest beaches and Kindness Rocks. Do you think that's kind of really helped propel the project a bit further and because like if maybe someone's not noticed a sandcastle already, but you've kind of given them that reason to go out and search for it because they've seen it on Instagram before? Is that quite crucial for that project, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And people shared it on Facebook as well. So a couple of my friends and people I know took pictures of their children with it, and then someone else shares it. It's kind of a knock-on effect, I think, isn't it, with sharing?
Great. And so shortly I'll move on to some Q&A from, so we've got some questions through the YouTube, but I thought I'd just ask you both, maybe Lisa, we'll start with you. Is there anything else you've been working on in lockdown that you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah. So I've been doing a couple of things. I've been collaborating remotely with people. So the thing that I'm working on at the moment is I'm actually dealing with this thing here. Sorry. I have this large beast that's trying to cat bomb me. I did an art exchange with another person who's doing a master's up in Leeds. Never met her, just remotely. We exchanged art and we displayed it in our houses. And she gave me some A4 pieces that really got lost on my wall. So I thought, well, what is that going to look like if I put it into a gallery setting? So I painted a cardboard box blue and I put the artwork in it. And for some reason, I seem to have, you know, when Wilko's sell bags of cats for 50p and you buy 20 of them, I've got loads of plastic cats. So I set up the tiny cat gallery. I'm going to show you a picture of it. Hang on a minute, if I can. It's that one.
Soundtrack as well.
Yeah. Oh, he's desperately hungry. So you can see that's at the top right on my screen. I don't know if it's inverted on yours. You can see the setup of the tiny cat gallery. It's a cardboard box. It's blatantly a cardboard box, and I've got I have a series of events set up until the end of August, the beginning of September. We have workshops. I've been selling people's work, which is the craziest thing you can imagine. So I'm now an art dealer because I've made a gallery in a cardboard box, which is just epic. And when I ran out of humans to collaborate with, I started to collaborate with the birds in my garden, and I've been making a series of bird and wind drawing machines. So there's a little bird activating one of the machines. And what you get are drawings like this. What I did in the daytime was that I color-coded them so you can see what temperatures we had during the day, and at night time I just had black pens, and all the movements are either from the birds or they're either from the wind. So I've been collaborating, but in my own little world of crazy, I think. So
you stopped sharing just after the tiny cat, so I don't know if you want
did I? Oh, shall I share the other one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right.
There we go. So there we go. There's a bird on the bird drawing machine in my garden. My garden's dinky. It's very, very small indeed, but there's just enough room to make some bird and wind drawing machines. And this is what I was talking about with the colour coding. So the black one is the nighttime drawing and the coloured one is the daytime drawing.
Brilliant. I love it.
I've stopped.
Bird-centered design?
Sorry, bird-centered design. Yeah, I mean, what do you hashtag? Nature drawing? I don't know. So, but the cat gallery, I'm really pleased with it because it's a way. I feel quite intimidated when I go into a gallery. I know that my shoes aren't right. I know that they're going to spot it's Primark, you know, or I've handmade it, and I just feel really awkward. And I know that they can tell that I haven't got the money to buy anything. I'm just there to look. But that doesn't happen in a cardboard box. I've really kind of leveled it out, and some of the work that's coming through is absolutely exquisite. Last week's exhibition, I think I had 10 paintings, and they were miniature versions of the artist's current work, and I sold 4 of them. But I sold them to other tiny galleries. So there's this whole new niche I've seemed to have found. It's really, really fun. So yeah, I suggest to everybody to make a tiny gallery and do some bird drawings. So.
It's brilliant. I love the way it's sort of, you talked about, mixing up the scale and sort of changing your perspective on the artwork. A great way of supporting and connecting with other artists, and also kind of removing barriers to accessing art. So I think it's great. And Claudia, did you have any other things you want to mention at this point? Tell us a bit more about the Grey Programme, maybe.
Okay. So most of my neighbours are wondering what on earth is going on when every time they see me leaving my house dressed as something different. So at the start of lockdown, when we were allowed like a little bit of exercise, I delivered grapograms for people. So it was a singing telegram. I can't sing or play the ukulele, so it was quite a silly thing. And I'd cycle my bike that I dressed as a grapevine and sing a personalised song and deliver a bottle of wine, wipe it all down with a hand sanitizer, stand far away. And then that's kind of led on to being a caddy as well around Knoll West. So you might spot me in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be cycling my bike around. It's yellow and pink, and I've got a green carpet that I can roll out and challenge you to a game of mini golf. And that's to promote the Philwood Fantastics mini golf that will be coming soon.
Amazing, thank you. And we'll have more information about sort of other Philwood Fantastic projects that are happening at our next talk. And so I'll have a look now at some questions then. So we've got lots of different things coming in, and we've had someone saying, interesting, so this is aimed at Lisa about the Show Some Love. So interesting to hear that you spoke to people who were littering, fly tipping. I always wonder what makes people do this. Can you tell us a bit more about their views? Yeah,
it's basically one coffee cup gave people permission to put a sofa down. So we'd lost quite a few of our litter bins. I think people had set them on fire. And we did for some period of time have the big bins, the big street bins. We had 3 on each street, which meant that if someone got a takeaway, they could open up the big bin and put their litter in. But without that, there was just nowhere to put them. And the people who I talked to who were littering said, well, there's nowhere else to put it. Someone else has already done it, so it's okay to do that. And I've been tracking them, and you see one coffee cup or one bag that's been ripped open by seagulls, and then the next day there's like half a flat is dumped there. It's I pity the street cleaners. They've really got to keep on the ball.
Sort of domino effect.
Which is why the idea of painting the flowers on the street, it was unpermanent chalk. It was the stuff that people used to write those cryptic numbers on the road, which I always think is some secret spell to enter another portal, but that's another thing, maybe another project. The idea behind the flowers was, I thought, well, if we take an area that's consistently being dumped on and make it look pretty, will that protect it? And it did. It works. So it doesn't take much. It does make a difference.
Yeah, and it's sort of like in a shared house when you do the dishes or something. Like once the dishes are done, people are generally a bit more until it starts adding again. And a bit of a follow-on from the same person asking who decided on who should get the awards.
Oh, I did. No, pretty much anyone who donated volunteering time to give out awards could make that call. So I did a lot of them. Khalil did a lot of the shop ones. I think there were a couple of other people from up our street, but it really lacked volunteers. If it had like 5 volunteers, we could have had a much wider impact and a much bigger spread. I kind of burnt out on, I did all of my side of Easton and it kind of killed me. So, I haven't got that much chat in me, really.
Cool. So, Claudia, there's a question around, is there a reason so many streets in Knowle are named after seaside towns? Did you manage to find that out in your travels?
This is a word of mouth story. The builders that came to build the houses were from those areas, and also the same with some of the Irish street names. So builders came from further away, and that's why they named them that. But that's unconfirmed, so I'm not sure.
Local legend.
Yeah.
And someone asking about what challenges we found in delivering projects in COVID-19, which we covered a little bit, but there's a specific question around, did you need to disinfect the rock?
So there was, once hands had been sanitized before, so when they arrived, I kept them in the box for a couple of days, because I think it's 72 hours, isn't it? And then I made sure my hands were clean and the place was clean where I was going. Yeah, it's hard. I carry sanitizer around everywhere with me, and I would do that when I did the Grapogram as well with the wine, and I was made it quite important, because everyone's boundaries are very different with this, so it's important to be thinking about.
Yeah, that's so true. We want to make sure you stay safe as well. Any other thoughts from either of you on sort of challenges around COVID-19 that we didn't already sort of cover?
I find it's been a blessing, really, in disguise. I mean, if it wasn't for the sheer danger of it, I've actually really enjoyed my time indoors, and it's made me realise that I'm trying to do way too much. I mean, I'm saying that as a person who's running 20 projects at once, but I'm also trying to go to college and run a business and do my art projects and see people socially and go out, and everything was far too fast and speedy, and this has given me a chance to really focus down and work out what I want to do personally with my creativity and where I want to go with it. So I'm grateful actually for the chance to be in lockdown, although I wouldn't trade off the deaths for the time I've had enjoying myself.
No, sort of like a silver lining.
Yeah. And I'm also grateful that I'm a hoarder of craft materials and paint, and I had the materials to do stuff with, and I enjoyed the challenge of working out how to do something without something that I couldn't just nip down to the scrap store to buy something. I had to make do with what I had, so that was a challenge that I enjoyed as well.
Being really resourceful.
Yeah,
that's great. And I suppose, Claudia, I think you mentioned to us yesterday. You said with Project Night, you found it tricky to attend in sort of person, but the Zoom session made it a bit easier. And then that kind of has opened up all sorts of collaborations do you think, if it wasn't for COVID, do you think you'd be in a similar situation, or is it kind of directly affected that for you?
It's definitely helped me with my artist practice. I graduated last year, and this is probably the first big sort of thing that I've done. And it's networking, I guess. It's really allowed me to do at an easier rate, I think, because a lot of it's just sort of evolved quite naturally. I've met people in the street, I've joined Zoom meetings, which I think, like I said before, sometimes they're a little bit more intimidating. Like now I could be talking to a lot of people, but I'm just talking to you and Lisa. So in some ways it can take the pressure off. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. And there's loads of really nice comments, so I might just read some of those out so that you get to hear. So saying such wonderful ideas, love how playful and joyful the projects are. Thanks, Lisa. That's so interesting to hear that one tiny starting point kicks it all off in terms of the litter. I think that is a brilliant way to change, to bring the community together and make positive change. You both challenged yourself, created concepts outside the box, and thought about the community more than the problem. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking inside the box with a tiny gallery. That's my new strapline. Think inside the box. Think small.
Yeah. Someone said their new favourite motto is "Start with what's strong, not with what's wrong," which is nice. We've got another question for Lisa. If you had more time, would you invest more time on social media channels as if spreading the news across?
Oh, do you know, I've got a pact with a friend that we're going to not do social media in August. I'm hating Facebook. I hate it so much. Twitter, I'm just turning into a political, ranting, horrible person. It's another thing that I feel that I have to do in order to further myself. So if I had time and money, I would pay someone to do it for me, because it sucks my life away. There.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's sort of definitely two sides to it. It's helped people connect and share ideas and kind of push movements forward a lot more quickly and immediately than they might otherwise.
But also selling stuff. I've sold my work and I've sold other people's work, and without social media, there's no way I would have done that. So I feel slightly unfaithful to say I hate it, but I do hate it. I hate it because it's so difficult to boundary yourself with it. You know, I my phone's with me at night because I listen to podcasts to go to sleep, and if I wake up, I'm like swipe, 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 and there's no respite and there's no rest and there's no, you know, and it's a constant. And especially, you know, I've got clients and customers in Australia who are up at 3 a.m. if I wake up, you know. So yeah, I need to work out. I want to take a month off as much as possible and try and sort out some control with it, because I feel like it's getting a bit out of hand. And it's especially during COVID, because it was our way of really keeping in contact with everybody. But no, enough.
Fair enough. Good to set healthy boundaries and take care of yourself as well. I suppose we're in a bit of a transitionary period now, aren't we, from the kind of immediate and kind of complete isolation to kind of coming slightly out of it, but still primarily kind of working remotely, or, you know, not necessarily seeing lots of people. So appreciate it's a tricky balance for a lot of people. But what I really like about both the projects is the way that you've really embraced sort of the outside and the local streets around you, and like encourage people to sort of engage with that and be out and about and see sort of creativity beyond your sort of bubble of your home or your phone. And I think that's been really, really good to see in both projects and the way that you've approached them. So let's just have another little look here. Got another comment saying, I love the creative hashtags, do something sweet for someone in your street. Very effective because it's memorable. And so it's a little bit like your sort of kindness rocks thing, I think, Claudia, isn't it? And I've had a question to say a bit more about Filwood Fantastic, so I'll do that now. So Filwood Fantastic is quite a big overarching project over 3 years. We're about halfway through, and it's about sort of bringing creativity to the area of Filwood, which is sort of northwest, is in the Filwood ward, and trying to kind of put Filwood on the map as a bit of a destination, bring kind of more pride to the local area, and find ways to showcase local talent, provide opportunities for skills development for local people, that kind of thing. It's all very focused on creativity. And so there's been various projects that we've done. If anyone's been up to Filwood, you'll see there's some big Filwood letters that were co-designed and created with local people through a series of workshops last year, sort of like the Hollywood sign, but for Filwood. And they've been really well received. And we kind of had a manifesto about what we wanted to get out of those letters as well, in terms of like have some element of interactivity. It showcases local people's artwork on the back with sort of patterns and drawings that people have done. The front is this light reflective paint, so you can light draw onto it with a torch or a phone light when it's dark. And so it's just kind of really trying to give a bit of like oomph and creativeness to the local area, whilst embedding that kind of local input and talent. And then other stuff we've got going on is the mini golf, like Claudia was talking about, which we'll find out a bit more about in our next talk. And then we're doing a project at the moment called Walk of Hearts and Stars, which will be, again, sort of along that Hollywood Filwood theme, but creating a kind of trail through the local area, which is showcasing Hearts, who are is commemorating people that have sadly been lost throughout the COVID crisis in the local area, and kind of remembering them, and Hearts to celebrate local volunteers, workers, neighbours, people who've been doing loads, not just recently. So people, you know, have done stuff over the last few years, who've maybe had sort of lifetime achievement awards for volunteering in the past, but also the more immediate and current kind of volunteering on people's streets and helping people throughout the crisis with their shopping or dog walking, or just kind of phoning people for a chat to kind of help alleviate some of the loneliness that might be arising throughout the situation. So that's just a few elements of the project, but it's yeah, do get in touch with us if you want to find out more. There's plenty of other stuff going on as well, and there'll be Knoll West Fest is coming up in September, on September the 12th, which usually is a physical event, but this year it's going to be online, and there'll be a whole series of different kind of performances and workshops and things available on the 12th. So, and that's tied in with Feel Fantastic as well. So yeah, do get in touch if you want to know a bit more about that. No more questions coming through on the YouTube, but I just give you both a chance if there's anything else you'd like to sort of add or wrap up with. Lisa, did you have anything else to add?
Well, other than an overwhelming desire to get everyone to draw with birds and make tiny galleries, no. I want to come and visit Claudia and have a game of golf, though. So
yes, great. There'll be lots of opportunity for golf coming up. Yeah, there'll be an actual mini golf course coming to Philwood as part of the project. So, that'll be later in the year. And Claudia, did you have any other parting words of wisdom or thoughts you'd like to give us?
If anyone does want to play golf and you're in Knoll West, you can send me a message. You can do that through Facebook, or I'm Claudia the Arcadia on Instagram, and then I can come down your street and play golf with you. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And yeah, I'll share some links shortly as well, just on our kind of like final slide. But thank you so much for joining us for July's Inspire Talk. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about such creative and amazing projects that are really kind of positive and using creativity to kind of tackle issues, or like just provide a bit of light relief to people in times of crisis. So yeah, it's been great to hear from you both. So thanks very much for joining us.
cool. Thanks for having me. And sorry for the cat bomb. He says goodbye.
That's quite all right. Thank you. And,
Thanks.
and I'll just share some links and stuff with everyone just to see us out. So yeah, thank you. See you next time.